How the hell do you do a sequel to a movie like Toy Story? Woody is kidnapped by an avid toy collector. As it turns out, Woody is part of a toy franchise. It was a national phenomenon at one point. He meets up with the other toys in his toy line, and he has an opportunity to go up in a museum in Tokyo and be adored by millions. And this is a really tough choice for Woody, because he can't deny the fact that Andy is gonna grow up and eventually he's going to outgrow his toys. But if he goes to this museum, then he'd be loved forever. Meanwhile, Buzz and all the other toys launch a rescue mission to get Woody back. Now, it seems to me that a lot of people consider Toy Story 2 to not only be a great movie, but a lot of people consider it to be better than the first Toy Story. I mean, shit, it's got a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's not only impressive, it's unheard of. So what do I think? Well, it's definitely a great movie, especially when you consider the tradition of Disney's sequels. But with the Toy Story movies, it seems that they actually put a lot of hard work and soul into these movies, and it pays off big time. This is an emotional movie in a very different way, because we see the emotions of the characters expressed a lot more. We see them go places that they only hinted at before. They kinda sorta touched on how Woody felt about being replaced by Buzz, but they ended up being friends and they wasn't replaced at all. But in Toy Story 2, we meet characters that weren't just threatened to be replaced, they were replaced. And the heartbreak they go through is honestly kind of rough. That kind of rejection applies to anything in life, whether it be a job promotion or a relationship. No one likes being forgotten, rejected, or replaced. So that's just yet another theme that people can sympathize with. I also really like how this movie really feels like an adventure. It operates on a bit of a bigger scope than the first one. Not that the first one was bad, but it was very local. It was right around the airport scene that I realized that this movie has a bit of a grander scale than the first one. So it's definitely got story and character development down. But I'd say the one thing that it's actually kind of lacking is the humor, which is a bit of a bummer. Watching this movie again, I can't help but feel like there was so much pressure on the studio to make this movie live up to the expectations of the first movie, that they just kind of caved and borrowed references and jokes from the first movie. And by some, I mean like a lot. I mean, a couple is fine. It's not unheard of for a movie in a series to reference the previous entries. There's nothing wrong with it as long as you don't go overboard. And unfortunately, I kind of feel like Toy Story 2 does. I remember at one point I was watching this movie and I started to count the references it makes to the first one, and I honestly started having to use 2 hands. That's a little excessive in my opinion. And another little gripe. At one point they introduce another Buzz Lightyear toy so that we can get the whole "I think I'm a real space ranger" shtick. Again, another joke borrowed from the first movie. But then they introduce an Emperor Zurg toy. At first I thought this was clever. I mean, we got to see the other toys in Woody's franchise, so it was kind of cool that we got to see some from Buzz's. And I thought they were setting up for something really great. And what was the payoff? A father-son playing football joke. Yeehaw. So yeah, I definitely think the first movie had humor down, and this one, well, it's a little hit and miss. I don't think that these guys really needed to borrow from the first one quite so much. But to be fair, it does a lot of really cool new things too. It's just not in the humor department. So overall, is it better than the first one? Honestly, I don't really like to compare them. Why can't they both just be great? So that's my opinion. Both movies are required viewings. And after all is said and done, Toy Story 2 still impresses me not only as a sequel, but as its own standalone movie. Definitely check it out for an emotional journey.